If you live in a strata building in British Columbia and are wondering how the electrical planning report works, then you've come to the right place. Today, I'll be walking you through a step-by-step guide on how to get one done for your building. So when it comes time to start the process, it'll be smooth sailing. Before we start, if you want to keep following the journey, please subscribe to the channel for more. Also, just some terminology. To keep things simple, I'll be referring to the electrical planning report as the EPR, and I'll be referring to whoever is creating the EPR, like the electrician or the engineer, as the EPR provider. Okay, the first step is just like when you're buying anything really, is to ask how much it costs. And this is when you request a quote. You'll need to reach out to myself, an electrician, or an engineer. As I mentioned in my previous video, technically an EPR can be created by an electrical engineer or an applied science technologist, but an electrician can get the process started for you. Requesting a quote is pretty straightforward and can usually just be done all through email. Wherever you're located in British Columbia, I'm sure there's local electricians or engineers that have experience with these reports. The service should be listed on their website, so with a little bit of research on Google, you should be able to find a few EPR providers in your area. Again, I'm happy to point you in the right direction if you're not quite sure where to start. Once you've reached out to the EPR provider and are in conversation, it may be wise to ask a few questions such as how much experience they have with these reports. You could ask them what their specific process looks like. And if you really want to go into detail, you could even request a few references from their past clients. This may not be necessary, but it just depends on how detail-oriented you are on your approach. Once you reach out to the EPR provider requesting a quote over email, the first question they'll probably ask you is what the address is of your building and if you can send over the strata plan. They need this so they can assess the size of your building, the age of your building, and really how much work it's going to take to complete this EPR for your building. Just a side tip, it's probably best to get a couple quotes from a few different sources just so you can compare pricing and really get a feel for who you want to work with. Once you find an EPR provider that meets your requirements and you'd like to move forward, they may ask you for a 50% deposit to get started. Once the EPR is green lit and it's time to get started, the EPR provider is gonna request some more documents from the strata. So what else will the EPR provider need? As I said, they're gonna need a copy of the strata plan showing the number of units, the utility billing statements, the utility property historical usage, the electrical demand for typical units, and the elusive electric operating permit logbook. Also, any information or a description on really anything in your building that uses electricity, like the heating, cooling, ventilation, waste, food management, elevators, charging if you have any, heat pump conversions, really any information that you can provide is going to be helpful. Some of this information is tough to dig up, so it may be good to just try to get your eyes on these documents before you reach out to the EPR provider. Once the EPR provider has all these documents, they'll review everything, and the next step is to schedule the site visit. I can't tell you how many site visits I've scheduled and done myself. It's got to be over 100. And because I've been to so many, I can give you some pointers on what to look out for. And it usually kind of works out the same each time. Depending on how many people are involved and how many different parties are going to be attending the site visit, there's usually a whole bunch of emails sent back and forth to everybody trying to coordinate and find a time that everybody can meet on site. Trying to figure out when everybody's available and the best time that works for everyone can be pretty time consuming. To speed this up, I would recommend just being upfront and sending the EPR provider a few different times that you'd be available to meet. You could even give them some rough guidelines on when works best, like Mondays are better for me, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. That way they have an idea and they can just choose a time and book it in. Another thing to remember is electricians and engineers often have a full schedule and they'll likely have a site visit before yours and possibly after yours. It's tough to predict how long these site visits are going to take So that's why they'll often just provide a window of time that they're expected to arrive on site. Sometimes this window is 2 hours, like between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. I know this can be kind of annoying just waiting around for someone to show up, but the trades that I usually work with are pretty accurate with their times. It all just really depends on who you're working with and how busy they are. Another thing I've experienced, especially with strata buildings, because so many people have a vested interest in the property, they often want to be involved in the decisions. And this means sometimes more people than necessary want to attend the site visit. I would recommend that keeping the number of people that are attending the site visit to a minimum. The more people that are involved, the more people that will need to confirm the best time they're available to meet. And with a larger group of people, the more conversations are had and questions are asked that sometimes extend the time of the site visit. What I'd recommend is assigning one person from the Strata Council to be the main point of contact with the EPR provider. This person will be running point on the project and doing all the coordination with the trades. Another thing that I've often run into is just try and make sure you have keys that can access all the areas of the building. I'm not saying this will be you, but I can't tell you how many times I've arrived on site and the person that I'm meeting can't find the keys to the electrical room or wherever else we need to access in the building. And we end up spending most of the time running around trying to find the keys or on the phone with people to come meet and bring the keys we need to get to the places we need to go. So if you can, just try to have everything ready so that it'll speed up the process. The main areas that the EPR provider will need to access is, well, mostly the electrical room, but often the mechanical room, the elevators, sometimes the roof to take a look at the heat pumps, the parking area. And in some rare cases, they might need to talk to some owners, but of course this can be tricky. So hopefully all the documents that you can provide will answer all the questions that they have about the individual units in the building. Last but not least is lead times. So the lead times are actually quite short for actually creating the report. It's the gathering all the documents and the information that takes the most amount of time. Knowing everything I just told you is certainly going to speed up the process, and you won't be surprised when the EPR provider starts asking you for all those documents. Some of those documents are kind of tricky to find, and usually stratas have a hard time finding this electrical operating permit logbook. So if you're able to get your hands on this early, it'll speed up the process. I'd also not recommend waiting too close to that December 31st, 2026 deadline, just in case there are delays and things take longer than expected. But in most cases, the EPR can be finished in a couple of weeks. Again, if you need help, feel free to give me a shout. I'd be happy to help you through the process. Thanks so much for checking in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.